Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Bande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Namo Mahabhajanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gaura Tishe Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Takta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Brindai Tulsi Debai Priyai Keshavasya Cha Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavachai Namo Namaha Panchatattvatvakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I'm offering my Dandavat Pranams, my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipable beloved Diksha and Siksha Gurudevs. Nityalila Pravishtom Vishnupad Paramahansa Astatarasata Sri Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada. Nityalila Pravishtom Vishnupad Paramahansa Astatarasata Sri Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj and Nityalila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Asto Tarasata Sri Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And my Dandavat Pranams to the lotus feet of all of my Shri Shri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga. And my Dandavat Pranams to all the Vaishnavas and all the Vaishnavis. So tomorrow is kind of a big day because there are 3 different personalities who are to be remembered and honored. That is Srila Nityalila Pravishta Srila Vaishnava Sarvabhaum Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. His disappearance day. As well as Rasikananda Dev Goswami. I read the book in India. You read a book about his life. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. I still have that in my trunk. Yes, in Navadvip Dham. Quite amazing. It's a whole book about his life. And then our most revered disciple of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, one of the most intimate and powerful preachers of the Gaudiya Math, and the guru of many of our Siksha gurus. That is Srila Bhakti Doyata Madhava Goswami Maharaj. His appearance or disappearance day? Yeah. What?
Appearance.
Appearance. The other, no, I think all 3 of them are the disappearance days.
Hey, gotta take it.
Appearance. Yeah, maybe appearance.
We'll find out tomorrow.
Because his disappearance day was more close to Kartik, I remember.
The day before Kartik.
Huh?
2 days
The day before Kartik, but he disappears.
Yeah, that's true.
You remember?
Ekadasi day
Like on the account.
before Kartik.
Yeah.
Right, right. Okay,
That's what
so we're going to have a festival for this purpose. Devotees like festivals because everything increases during a festival. Prasadam increases, Kirtan increases, and Harikatha. So I was reading just this afternoon, I was looking at the 3 books that I downloaded of Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Maharaj. First one is called Vishuddha Chaitanya Vani, which later on they also named their website the same name, Vishuddha Chaitanya Vani. And I was looking at the index there and I noticed, oh, there's actually a whole section on Srila Bhakti Madhav Goswami Maharaj, quite long. I started reading it and it seems that that particular article, I probably read it in the past, but I don't remember it that well, is mostly telling a lot about his own experience with his Guru Maharaj. Yeah. And then, of course, there's the entire book, which is called Volcanic Energy, which is an actual biography written by him. So it's all about his Guru Maharaj. Yeah. And then there's Srila Bhakti Balabhatirtha Maharaj's book that I have on my computer, and that's quite lengthy. So just for that one personality, we have so much to hear about. And of course, Srila Jagannath Das Babaji, Vaishnava Sarvabhaum, not a light personality in our disciplic succession. Very, very powerful Vaishnava. He's the one that verified the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you know, and that's there in his pranam mantra. You know the pranam mantra of Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj? I'll have to remember it because we always say it after Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. So, Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachidananda Namani Gauda Shakti Surupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gaur Avirbhava Bhumestvam Nirdeshta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarva Bhoma Shri Jagannathayate Namah. So here it's telling that Gora Avirbhava Bhumestvam. So Avirbhava Bhuma means the land, the place of the Avirbhav, of the appearance of Gora. Nirdeshta, you are the one who indicated this. This is where it is. So the entire Vaishnava community, they accepted because of him. Even though Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur had proven it in so many different ways, but for it to be embraced and accepted by all the Vaishnava community, there had to be such a personality that is respected by all the Gaudiya Vaishnavas everywhere in the 3 dhams.
I just read today also that Srila Bhakti Srila Swami Maharaj later on found more proof.
Yeah, I'm sure there probably is, you know. I'd like to see that also.
Sure.
So, Gaura Vraja Shita She Shayar. This is a verse written by Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj. He also wrote pranam mantras, separate from these that we always recite. Gaura Vraja Ashita She Shayar Vaishnavayar Vandya Vigraham Jagannatha Prabhum Bande Premabdim Vridha Vaishnavam. So here he's indicating that Gaura Vraja Ashita Sheshayar means the 3 dhams of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It means Gaura Dham, Navadvip, Vraja Dham, Vrindavan, and also Jagannath Puri. Those are the 3 dhams of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, accepted by all the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. So all of the Vaishnavas in these 3 dhams, they all glorified and accepted Sri Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj as like the topmost, Vaishnava Sarvabhauma. So, you know, his life is also a life of practically superhuman bhajan that he did, you know, and so we also have to hear about him tomorrow or today. My idea is this should go on for a few days, because it's not a, you know, a subject that we should just pass over. And especially Srila Bhaktivedanta Madhava Goswami Maharaj. So wonderful to hear about him, because he's the closest in the disciplic line to us. Rasikananda Dev Goswami, also a very powerful Vaishnava. So we have to hear about him as well. So I thought in the few minutes that we have, we'll start that going on and give some little overview. So what I was thinking, I wanted to read about Rasikananda Dev Goswami, because I think it may be shorter. I'll just find it quickly here in Srila Bhakti Bhagavatirtha Goswami Maharaj book. Okay. Here. Okay. Rasikananda's birth. Rasikananda Dev Goswami was born in 1512 of the Shaka era, which is 1590 AD, in the village of Rohini or Rayani in the Medinipur district. This village is situated at the confluence of the Suvarna Reka and Dolanga rivers. His father's name was Raj Achyutananda and his mother Bhavani Devi. The Suvarna Reka river crosses back and forth across the present-day Bengal-Orissa border. Medinipur district used to be a part of the Orissan kingdom. Did I not? Oh, your phone is still here. Okay. So it used to be a part of the Orissan kingdom. Raj Achyutananda was an Orissan of the Karana caste, the equivalent of the Kayasthas in Bengal. A Vaishnava is beyond the material qualities and should not be judged in terms of his caste origins. Achyutananda and Rasikananda were born in the Karana caste in order to bless it. Rasikananda was the son of an important zamindar. We can assume that he was a manjari in Krishna Lila. His guru Shyamananda had himself been initiated by Hriday Chaitanya Goswami. So his guru is Shyamananda, right? That's what I thought. Initiated by Hriday Chaitanya Goswami, who worshipped the Lord in the friendly mood, Sakya. However, due to the association of the Vraja devotees, led by Jiva Goswami, he took shelter of the conjugal mood. So Shyamananda thus initiated Rasikananda into the worship of Radha and Krishna. So Rasikananda was also known by the name Rasik Murari. Mother Janava's disciple, Nityananda Das, wrote in his Prem Vilas that Shyamananda had two principal disciples, one named Rasikananda, the other Murari, both of whom lived in Rayani, but Narahari Chakravarti indicates clearly in the Bhakti Ratnakara that both names refer to the same individual, Rasik Murari. In the village of Rayani lives the famous son of Achyutananda. He had two names, Rasikananda and Murari. Oh, this is a quote verifying this from Bhakti Ratnakara. He had two names, Rasikananda and Murari. Thus he was also known as Rasika Murari. So from his early childhood, who is learned in the scriptures. That's the end of the quote. From the Bhakti Ratnakara we learn that when exiled from Ayodhya, the son of Dasarat, Lord Ramchandra, stayed for some time with Lakshman and Sita in the village of Barajita, not far from Rayani. He there established a Shiva Linga named Rameshwar. The zamindar of this area was Achyuta. He took good care of his subjects and was a strict follower of religious principles. His wife was also well known as a faithful and loyal wife. Rasik Murari learned to serve his parents in an expert way, bringing them much satisfaction. Bhakti Ratnakara also notes that he had a devoted wife named Icha Mai Devi, or Icha Day, who was from village of Gantashila on the banks of the Suvarna Reka. This village also had a certain historical renown as a place where the Pandavas stayed during their exile. It was in this village that Rasik Murari first met his guru, an event which has been elaborately described in the Bhakti Ratnakara. So here's the section Rasik Murari meets Shyamananda Prabhu. One day, Rasik Murari was meditating in a solitary place, anxious to find a spiritual master who could give him spiritual direction. He had entered into a very deep meditation when he heard a disembodied voice say, "Murari, you need be anxious no longer. Your guru is Shyamananda, and you will meet him here very shortly. Take shelter of him and your life will be successful." So upon hearing this divine message, Murari began chanting the name of Shyamananda on his beads with joyful enthusiasm. He spent the entire night crying out of his desire to meet his guru until finally at the end of the night, he had a dream vision of Shyamananda Prabhu who said to him, "Don't worry any longer, for you will meet me this very day." Wow. I never heard this before. At dawn, Rasik Murari was on the lookout for his guru when he saw the tall figure of Shyamananda approaching him, as effulgent as the sun. Surrounded by his disciples like Kishore Das, he was dancing in a state of absorption in divine love while chanting the names of Nityananda and Chaitanya. Having waited anxiously for so long to encounter his guru, Rasik Murari immediately fell down at his feet. Shyamananda affectionately lifted him up and embraced him. Then after giving him the Radha Krishna mantra, he offered him up to Chaitanya and Nityananda Prabhus. This whole story reveals how one can find one's guru through sincere prayers. Rasikananda becomes a potent preacher. Rasikananda Dev Goswami served his guru, fully committing himself in body, mind, and soul. So much so that in a short time he was recognized as Shyamananda's chief disciple and a very powerful preacher and initiating guru himself. In fact, it is a truism that a good disciple becomes a good teacher. A spiritual master may have innumerable disciples in name only who call him their guru, but only a true disciple who has dedicated himself completely to his spiritual master is imbued with all the powers of the guru. With the spiritual powers invested in him by his guru, Rasikananda was able to convert many criminals, atheists, Muslims, and other fallen spirit souls to the path of devotion, bestowing the jewel of prema upon them all. On one occasion, a wicked Muslim tried to silence Rasik Murari by having him attacked by an intoxicated elephant. But Rasikananda was able to transform even the elephant into a disciple. Yeah, I remember reading this before. He was able to transform even the elephant into a disciple and engage him in the service of Vishnu and the Vaishnavas. All who witnessed this amazing event were overwhelmed with astonishment at Rasik Murari's spiritual power. I remember from reading that biography that he gave the initiated name Gopal Das to the elephant. I don't know if it says it here later, but that elephant also came when he called from the middle of the jungles with his other elephants. When he called, Gopal, by Rasikananda, he came and bowed down before his spiritual master. Can you get that? My God.
Was he still in the form of an elephant?
Yes. No, he was an elephant. Yeah. So, Shamananda turned the seva of his personal Govinda deity in Gopi Ballabhapura over. He turned it over to Rasikananda. He, Shamananda, brought down, this is a quote from Bhakti Ratnakara. He, Shamananda, brought down a rainstorm of ecstatic love on Gopi Ballabhapur. Then he bestowed the service of Govinda Dev on Rasikananda. News of Rasikananda's spiritual potency spread far and wide as he saved many atheists and criminals through his blessings. He mercifully gave the treasure of devotion to Muslims as he wandered from village to village with his disciples. He made a disciple of the elephant sent by an evil man, engaging him in the service of Krishna and the Vaishnavas. The evil Muslim Zamindar then came and surrendered to him. He delivered unlimited living beings without any consideration of their caste background. Rasikananda remained constantly intoxicated in Harinam Sankirtan. Who will not be overcome with emotion on reciting his virtues? Oh my God. Yeah, and actually we're very impressed by all this. But in the Vaishnava Vandana song, in the songbook, it's telling there that each of the great devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are so powerful they can deliver an entire universe. Is that an exaggeration? Only to those who doubt absolute truth. Now the Prem Vilas also says in the 19th chapter, quote, he delivered many criminals and Muslims. The Raja of Mayur Bhanj, Vaidyanath Bhanj in Orissa, was also attracted to the transcendental power of Rasikananda and became his disciple. Other important disciples were Ganapati, then the Zamindar of Patashapur in Medinipur, Sri Bhima and Sri Kara, the Zamindars of Darenda, Ahmad Beg, the son-in-law of the governor of Orissa, Ibrahim Khan, the Muslims. So these all became disciples of his. Rasikananda Dev Goswami wrote a number of works, including Shamananda Shataka, Bhakta Bhagavat Tashtaka, Kunjakeli Dvadashaka. The great Darenda festival organized by Shamananda with the participation of Rasik Murari, Damodar and others is remembered to this day by their descendants. Rasikananda's disappearance. It is said that just prior to Rasikananda's disappearance in AD 1652, he went to a village named Vamshadaha near Jaleshwar with 7 disciples. Mahaprabhu passed through this village when traveling to Puri with Nityananda. This is a quote from the Chaitanya Bhagavat. They walked from there to Raimuna, chanting kirtan the whole way, arriving in the courtyard of the Gopinath temple. You know which Gopinath? Kirchor Gopinath. That's Raimuna. When you go from Bengal to Orissa, you pass through Raimuna. So that's where they were doing kirtan. And so they arrived in the courtyard of the Gopinath temple. Suddenly, Rasikananda merged into the body of the Gopinath deity. His disciples also left their bodies in the same place. Rasik Murari's flower samadhi and those of his 7 associates are still maintained in the courtyard of the Kirchor Gopinath temple. An annual festival lasting 12 days is held in Remuna to celebrate his disappearance. And this takes place on the Shiv Chaturdashi in the month of Magh, which we just observed. Vishwambarananda Dev Goswami, the author of the celebrated Astikya Darshan, was Rasikananda's descendant. Vishwambarananda Dev Goswami. So Rasikananda, Rasik Murari and Rasikananda Dev Goswami ki jai. Wow.
Same person, right?
Yes, same person. I mean, this is astonishing. You know, people, in the ordinary people, we know, historically, that if someone exhibits a little bit of kind of mystical power, immediately, so many people come, right? But such empowered personalities as these, we can just think, this Krishna consciousness movement that we've received through Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, and all the disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, this has the collection of the most astonishing personalities ever walked on the face of the earth. Actually, what to speak of the 6 Goswamis, Mahaprabhu, Panchatattva, all. So that generation, sometimes we refer to it as the second wave. After the direct associates of Mahaprabhu, 6 Goswamis and so forth, then comes Narottam Das Thakur and Shamananda Prabhu, Srinivasacharya and their disciples. That's the second wave. And just see what extraordinary personalities were sent to the earth by Mahaprabhu to do this level of preaching, you know, and to spread the mission of Mahaprabhu. So we should know that this will always be a regular occurrence in the lines of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. From time to time, such personalities, they descend into this world to give a push. Srila Prabhupada used to say, to give a push to the movement. So none of us know who is coming, when they will come, where they will be born, what activities they will do, but there is no doubt whatsoever that this is going to happen again and again and again in this very era that we are living right now. And the whole world will shift and change by the will of the Lord and become more and more and more receptive to the movement of Mahaprabhu. Because how can it not happen? How can this not take place? It has to take place. Because who is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? He's like the most incredible personality that ever came onto the earth. He's Krishna and Radha combined. And all of their eternal associates came down in Gaur Lila from Braj Lila, right? And their lines of disciplic succession, and then the personalities that have been sent to this earth, Bhaktivinoda Thakur directly, eternal associate, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, even his disciples directly descended. So we should know absolutely that this is going to continue. And you know what Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj said? He said that if someone thinks that there is not a powerful Mahabhagavad on the planet at all times, then he's an atheist. So they are, but they're hidden, sometimes hidden, you know, sometimes not yet recognized, but they'll be recognized in the future like that. And our Srila Prabhupada always used to say that the Acharya is self-manifested. It is not that the Acharya is appointed, and yes, there is a legal method of passing the authority of an institution to the successor acharya. That's written into Indian law. But the actual acharya will self-manifest. And we saw that how many times in our life already? Srila Prabhupada, nobody knew, he's writing books in Vrindavan, that he would become the Jagat Guru World Acharya, who will spread this to every single country throughout the world, in all the different languages. Who knew that? Who knew that our Gurudev, who was hidden away in a little Keshavji Gaudiya Mat, right? In his little tiny room doing his bhajan for what? From like 1950. So like almost half a century, right? And, preaching and going on parikramas and writing his books and all of this, that he would become the next world acharya. We can say that with no shyness whatsoever, that he became the next world acharya. How do we know that? Because first of all, he went all over the world. Secondly, he initiated disciples all over the world. Thirdly, he gave the books for not just the present day devotees, but he gave all the necessary books to complete the mission that Srila Prabhupada had begun to establish, giving the main literatures of the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, in this way, sometimes they're not yet noticed, but they will become noticed by the will of the Lord. So that's our little reading for today. Sorry for the lateness. I always get delayed from this or that. That's my curse. So we read now Rasikananda. So tomorrow we have to cover Srila Jagannath Das Babaji, and we have some actual books written about him. So we'll talk about him, and then also Srila Bhaktivedanta Madhava Goswami Maharaj tomorrow, and we'll continue for a few days on all those topics of his life and so forth. Gaur Premanandi. Vancha kalpatarubhascha kripa sindubhena cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavim.